the truth behind the sitcoms. One Day at a Time was a top 10 hit and a milestone in television history. A realistic sitcom about a divorced mother told from a feminist point of view. Bonnie Franklin, fresh from her Tony-nominated role in the Broadway musical Applause, was getting her big break at national stardom in a Norman Lear sitcom pilot. Playing her rebellious daughter, Julie, would be Mackenzie Phillips, daughter of John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas, and a full-blown movie star in her own right, having recently starred in the smash hit American Graffiti. Rumors of tension surfaced almost immediately.
They called and said, well, okay, we're going to do this, and Mackenzie Phillips is going to be playing your daughter. Now, I'd seen Mackenzie in American Graffiti, and she was fabulous. She was wonderful, but I thought, A, she's too old.
What she didn't realize was that I was just 15 years old. I mean, I think she thought I was 18 years old.
And B, she's too tall. That's not fair!
Well, I remember there was some sort of confusion about the billing. Because at the time, I was the known person on the series, you know. As far as the television audience and the film-going audience was concerned, I was the person that people recognized. And so, you know, I think it was the management of me and Bonnie going back and forth about billing, co-starring Mackenzie Phillips and Bonnie Franklin, starring Mackenzie Phillips with Bonnie Franklin, and it turned into a bit of a nightmare.
Then we made a first pilot that was very different from the second. Valerie was not in our first pilot.
And Romano, Bonnie Franklin's character, was the mother of one child.
The first pilot was a mess. It was just a mess. There was nothing clear about it.
And CBS saw the pilot, and they reworked it, and we reshot it, and Valerie was cast as my sister.
We were in trouble, actually, our first season, as far as I was concerned, because our shows were just not very good.
We were a yawn for the first 15 shows, as I recall.
The network asked us to do 2 more episodes, and I said no, and went to Norman and said, I don't want to do this unless it's about what this show is supposed to be, what you meant it to be. It needs to be about divorce. It needs to be about what it's like for kids growing up as children of divorce.
She spent the weekend in the script, and when she came in on Monday morning, she was loaded for bear.
She's like a bulldog, a truck driver. You know, she'd come in the morning on Monday morning, and she knew what she wanted, and damn it, she was going to get it.
I think I did cause trouble because I was so unhappy with what the show was about.
Franklin was not the only unhappy cast member. Mackenzie Phillips was just 14 years old when she rocketed to stardom in American Graffiti. She was ill-equipped to cope with fame.
I think that the way a child handles child stardom is really, really based on how their parents have raised them. And I was raised in a very, very permissive, surrounded by drug and alcohol abuse, not use, but abuse, from a very young age, and that I was not at all prepared to handle child stardom.
Although the adult co-stars of One Day at a Time suspected Phillips was on a downward spiral, they weren't eager to get involved.
I don't think I was ever a mother figure to them.
I never would have survived with Bonnie as a mother. She would have thrown me out.
I felt more in a position of older advisor person rather than parental. I wasn't in the position to do that.
From the beginning, Valerie Bertinelli was the good daughter, both on camera and off.
When she hit, it was like she had a rocket in her keister. I mean, she just went through the roof.
When Valerie started to soar, I couldn't even watch the show. It killed me. Privately, it killed me.
With sisters and relationships and rivalries and all of that kind of stuff, the two of them have a whole story all in and of themselves.
I was happy for her. But, you know, you can be happy for someone and want to throttle them all in the same moment. So, yeah, there was some resentment. I just felt so frustrated with that beautiful peaches and cream skin, and here I was with, like, these craters and mountains all over my face.
She was gorgeous, and she was very skilled, and played comedy well and smart. And I think the bigger picture is America grew up with her and virtually adopted her as their favorite daughter. And she was the healthy one. And she was the beautiful one, and she was perceived as the golden child.
Even when Valerie Bertinelli married Eddie Van Halen, a rock star known for his less than conventional lifestyle, she remained the embodiment of the old-fashioned girl.
What I could see was that she really loved him, and Van Halen's
is sitting there saying, I'm dating the most beautiful woman on television, the most popular girl in America. Yeah, that works.
As Mackenzie's life became a nightmare, Bertinelli and the other cast members grew increasingly irritated by her erratic behavior.
I began to notice, oh, yeah, people are feeling the strain of this. And Valerie was definitely pulling back. There was definitely a carefulness early on.
The good girl and the bad girl.
Valerie and I had a really close relationship, and I think Valerie's a very smart woman, and also knows what's the right thing to do for her career and what's not, and especially at that time when she was really on the brink of superstardom. And when my troubles became more apparent, my addiction and alcoholism was becoming obvious to everybody, she backed off. And it hurt me deeply at the time, but retrospectively, I certainly don't blame her. She had everything to lose, and I was already losing everything.
Coming up, Mackenzie Phillips falls prey to an aging rock star.
Mick Jagger turns and locks the door and turns to me and says, I've been waiting for this since you were 10 years old.
Sherman Hemsley talks about his years in a gang.
Mother told me she either go to the Air Force or go to jail, but that's what I said.
And the outrageous rumors about Happy Days Scott Baio.
I've been gay, I was a drug addict. What the hell else was I that people wrote about me?
All when TV Guide, the truth behind the sitcoms, returns. At the same time that One Day at a Time was at the top of the ratings, it was also a show in turmoil. Valerie Bertinelli had emerged as a bona fide superstar, helping to send Mackenzie Phillips deeper into a drug and alcohol-fueled depression. With the entire show seemingly on edge, there was only one person who could be counted on to lighten up the atmosphere.
Ladies in this building don't call me super for nothing. There was a lot of women, a lot of women who found this guy attractive, found him sexy. That's always the case. I mean, that's always the case on television.
I mean, Schneider was a ridiculous character.
You want me, don't you?
While Pat Harrington had a following not unlike groupies around a rock star, a certain aging rock star was about to re-enter Mackenzie Phillips' life.
I was at a party at my father's, in the same building as Mick Jagger. My father's friends were there, and Mick Jagger was at the party, and I'd known him since I was a little kid, and I always thought he was so beautiful. And he said, let's go make tuna fish sandwiches in my apartment. His apartment was like the floor below. So my dad and Mick and I went down to his apartment. And Mick goes, John, we don't have any mayonnaise. Run upstairs and get some mayonnaise. So my father leaves. Mick Jagger turns and locks the door and turns to me and says, I've been waiting for this since you were 10 years old. Now, I was 18, at the time. So I ended up spending the night in his apartment. My dad banged on the door, Mick, what are you doing? That's my daughter in there. And he was like, oh, buzz off, John. And so I spent the night, and, obviously, we had sex. And the next morning he says, you better call your father. So I called my father, and Mick was in the kitchen making tea and toast and fresh strawberries. He was like the gentleman, And I called my dad, and he said, are you okay? Was he nice to you? And I said, Dad, he was very nice. He's making tea. I'll be down in about an hour.
In this anything-goes atmosphere, not even an arrest for drug possession could stir her father to assume a more parental role.
I remember specifically when I called my father after the arrest, and I was sitting in my house in Laurel Canyon. And I was on the front page of the LA Times, and Rona Barrett was reporting about it on the news. And I said, Dad, I got arrested. And he goes, all right, kid, it's about time.
Phillips was crashing. She pushed the limits, and the producers pushed back.
My first week there, I saw the big problem. I mean, it was right there on a table. And I came home and I said to my wife, this is never going to last. She will not last, and neither will I.